Your leadership journey is not just your backstory, it's actually your brand secret weapon. The moment you start sharing it, your influence multiplies. Come on, let's go ahead and go deeper. Welcome back to Transformation Station, the podcast where we grow leaders from the inside out, one shift, one strategy, one transformation at a time. Listen, I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're stepping into a conversation every leader, every creator, every change maker needs to hear. What's that message? Well, we're talking about how to elevate your brand with clarity, consistency, and confidence. And joining us today is someone who understands branding in a way that's both practical and deeply human. I can't wait till you meet Kelly. But before you do, I want to say thank you to all of the viewers and the listeners. Because of you, we pushed past the 2,500 download mark. Congratulations to you. Thank you so much for growing and building this community. But guess what? We've only just begun. That's right. We need you, invite you to go ahead and get caught up. We're in season 3. If you missed even one episode, you heard me correct. If you missed even one episode of season 1 and season 2, go back, get caught up, and keep on sharing Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. Now, let me tell you about our guest today. Kelly is a marketing strategist and thought leadership expert with nearly 2 decades of experience helping entrepreneurs and professionals elevate their brands. Kelly is the founder of 2 Mile High Marketing, where she works with businesses to refine their messaging, grow their visibility, and create impactful marketing strategies. And even though she's here with us today, guess what? She's also the host of Beyond the Bestseller, a podcast that empowers women to share their stories and build thriving platforms. Kelly, we are so excited to have you here on Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Adrienne. And that was just an amazing intro. You are a natural. I love it.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, this is an exciting conversation because it really is a real, true, right now conversation for all of us as leaders. Branding, elevating your brand, like we can't get away from that if you're going to be successful now in these days. So, Kelly, as I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking to myself that branding, it's not just about a logo and a tagline. Branding many times is about identity, alignment, the way we show up in every space that we touch. And today's conversation, I'm really excited about it because I have a feeling that we're going to be invited to be intentional with our message, intentional with our presence, intentional with our experiences. So I want to start off by asking you this question. From your experience and perspective, what's the biggest mindset shift that leaders need to make when stepping into thought leadership for the first time?
This is a great question.
Mm,
So I think that a lot of when you mention first time, a lot of us struggle with imposter syndrome.
mm,
I was one of those people. I did not see myself as being the person in the spotlight. That was for somebody else.
mm,
I like to call myself, or what I used to be, my former self, the person behind the person. So I was
right.
really good at elevating my bosses in the workplace, but
Mm,
when it came to starting my own company, I had to kind of come out from behind the curtain
mm,
and start putting myself in the spotlight and start getting used to being the person that people were asking the questions, that people were looking to for the answers. So I think the biggest mindset shift is getting over that imposter syndrome and uh, telling ourselves that we are capable of doing the things that maybe we thought we weren't capable of before.
I love that. And I want to just talk about that for a moment. As you were talking about having to shift from being that person that was behind the person that was leading to being the person that was leading, I was thinking to myself that one of the challenges that I know that I had was that I was told that while I should be leading, if I'm up in the front, then that means that I have an ego issue. And for some, that can be really challenging. Like there's this delicate balance, right? It's like, do you put your face, and I know we'll talk about this later, but it's like, do you put your picture on every flyer? Do you step out and have the loudest voice in the like, navigating that journey can be really challenging at times. Um, Another shift that for me personally I found, and you can tell me, have you seen this over the years, was to stop thinking that I had to have all the answers.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that that's what leads us to that imposter syndrome. Sometimes it's like, well, I don't know everything about this subject, right? You mentioned the ego thing, so I want to talk on that for a second. That I actually did a post yesterday on LinkedIn talking about the journey to overcoming imposter syndrome. And somebody commented on the post saying that their motto is that the imposter never has the syndrome. Now, if you have
Mm,
to think about that for a second, right? But
yes.
the person with the ego who wants to get up in front of people and wants everyone to be looking at them and wants everyone to see them as they have all the answers, right, is often not struggling with imposter syndrome because they have that big ego and they're like, I know everything and I'm so smart and
Mhm,
where those of us who oftentimes have a lot of experience and have a lot of knowledge, um, we don't always realize that we have all those answers, or we think, like you said, we think we have to know 100%, right, of every single thing that if somebody asks us a question, we have to know the answer, right? And sometimes we don't know the answer, and that's okay. We can say, I often will say like, I don't know that, and I'll kind of pivot the question to something I can answer. Like if I'm on stage, for example, and I'm really on the spot,
mhm.
I might
Yes.
pivot to something I can answer and some resource I can provide them, right?
Mm,
It's okay. The world of publishing is a great example. I worked in publishing for 10 years, and I absolutely do not know everything out there. So sometimes I do feel like I'm inadequate when somebody asks me a question about something that I don't know when it comes to, do you know this publishing company, or, something regarding the publishing process. But the reality is the publishing world is huge. There's so
yes.
much to it, right? And I don't have to know every single thing. I know
Mhm,
my area where I have the most experience, and that's where I can drive people to. And I can say, you know what? If I don't know that specific thing, that's okay. I can
yes.
maybe connect you with somebody who can better answer your question. But
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that I'm not the expert in the topic.
I love that. I love that. So here in Transformation Station, we always give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to pause and to do some reflection. And I want to invite everybody. Kelly has just dropped some serious gems for us to reflect on and ask some thought leadership assessment questions to ourselves. And as you were talking, I was thinking about this. A best practice for our leaders can be share from clarity, not from comparison. Don't compare yourself
Mm,
to anyone else, right? But share from clarity, share from authenticity. And to all of our leaders, we want to invite you to ask yourself this question right now. What is one lesson that you've lived that someone else is still learning? And
mm.
how can you share it with clarity and generosity? Here in Transformation Station, many of us are leaders of teams. We're leading organizations, we're leading teams. So what we learn is not just for ourselves, right? What is the lesson that you've learned that you can share with somebody who's still learning that lesson, right? And how can you share it with clarity? So, Kelly, I want to ask you this question. Um, why do you believe thought leadership, like we hear the term, why do you believe thought leadership is so important for professionals and entrepreneurs today?
Yeah, I think today more than anything, thought leadership is extremely important.
Mm,
A lot of industries are being drastically shifted because of AI, right? And you can use AI to develop content. You can use AI to make yourself more efficient, to create workflows. I mean, there's a lot that AI can do that
Yes.
is replacing certain roles in
Yeah.
industries, right?
Mhm.
But the reality is AI cannot replace you and your unique experience and expertise. So
Mm.
as a business leader, if you're showing up at events and you are speaking as a thought leader, or you write a book and you're putting that out there, sure, yeah, you can use AI to write a book. But if you want an authentic book that's really telling a story, because people connect with the
Yes.
story, then
Yes.
then thought leadership is really what's going to make you stand out as your industry is shifting.
Mm. I like that. I'm pausing because, when we comes to thought leadership again, um, I think sometimes people see it as like another phase or fad, but as you're talking, I'm thinking, no, thought leadership is here to stay. I mean, it's not really brand new. It's probably just the way in which people are perceiving and reaching it now, because it's basic leadership, right? But it's here to stay. And on that thought, here's my next question. So many brilliant professionals remain invisible because they're afraid to be seen, right? What's one way for us as leaders to overcome the fear of visibility?
Yeah, so part of my journey has been, I read the book a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I read the book Personality Isn't Permanent. And that book, he taught in that book, Benjamin Hardy talks about trauma that holds us back in some way. And as I was reading it, I didn't feel like I had trauma necessarily, but I kept thinking, like, what is the thing that's holding me back?
Mm,
And for me, it was my fear of public speaking, which is similar to, there's that fear of people looking at you, the fear of putting myself out there, right? And so I knew at that time that I needed to just combat that head on. I needed to get over that fear. And so what I started doing at that time was I started doing video content
mhm,
and, podcast interviews, TikTok content, videos for LinkedIn. I started forcing myself to get
mm,
comfortable with looking at myself on the screen,
mm,
thinking through ideas and sharing those ideas in a way that other people could learn from them, take something away from it. And was I perfect at the beginning? Absolutely not. I'm not
right,
perfect now, right?
right.
But for me to combat that fear was just, I had to just start doing it and doing things that made me uncomfortable.
Mm, that's a whole word right there, right? To our community, as we're listening to Kelly, Kelly is giving us an invitation right now to be courageous, to step forward. I love the fact that you said that you realized that, there was this discomfort, this fear when it comes to the videos, and you challenged yourself to just go ahead and do them, right? But and you did them with what you were comfortable with, right? Develop thoughts and said, okay, I'm going to share content that can have an impact. And, for me, I see that as an encouragement to shift the focus from myself, right? Because when I'm afraid of people seeing me, seeing my face, and putting myself out there. But at the end of the day, am I doing the video for people to be connected to me? Or am I doing it to have impact? And leaders, this is the question, right? As Kelly is talking, we are reminded that fear grows when we're thinking, how do I look? What will people think? And this is real, because we all think that. I can't tell you how many times, Kelly, like I've done a video and the video is over and I don't want to go and watch the video. Like I don't want to hear my voice. I don't want to. And I had a coach who was like, "Oh, you absolutely have to. You need to go and watch the
Yeah.
replay so you can hear if you're saying you need to be able to see what
Yeah.
other people see."
Yeah.
It's a humbling experience, but it grows our courage. And, you said something a moment ago, like, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but it causes us to be progressive, to
Yeah.
grow, which is so important. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, you mentioned the saying and things that we say that aren't perfect. So I I think you have to be careful about that. For one, yes, I think you should watch yourself and see what you're doing that you can work on to improve, but don't beat yourself up about it.
Mhm,
Because I
mm,
just told myself, you know what? Sometimes I say a lot and
mm,
I don't care. It's who I am. It's how I talk. Should I work on making that better? Yes. However, don't let that hold you back. Don't let those imperfections hold you back from putting
Mhm,
that content out there, because
mhm,
that it will get in your head too much, so
mhm.
yes, watch your content with the idea of how can I make this better for
Mhm.
the user's experience. But
Yes.
don't hold yourself back. If you say if you there's just so many little things that I do when I do create videos that sometimes I can
Yes.
edit things a little bit, but I just tell myself, you know what, this is me and I'm showing up authentically, and that's okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen on Netflix, there is a limited series called The Bad Influencer. I don't know if you've ever
No,
seen that.
no.
It's so, I mean, there's a whole lot to the plot, but one thing when you look at it from a branding perspective, they really honed in on the point that people connect with authenticity.
Yes.
The bad influencer had a crazy lifestyle. There was all this drama going on, but the moment that they were authentic on camera and just said, you know what, like taking off the mask, this is who I am. This is what the situation is. It's not good, but let me just tell you. And people started connecting, and I said, and it was that reminder of when we are honest, when we are authentic, when we show up as ourselves, there is an audience that's out there for everyone.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about branding a little bit later, because they always say, like, when you are putting yourself out there or you're crafting your message, don't try to speak to the whole wide world. Speak to an intended message. I mean, an intended audience. There is an audience for you. To the leaders who are talking to you, there is an audience for you, right? And so I want to invite everybody, before we move on to our next question, to remember that courage grows when you shift the question to who needs this message? Who will stay stuck if I stay silent? Who am I helping by showing up today? These are really important questions, leaders, that we are to ask ourselves as we're talking about elevating our brand. So I'd like to hear a little bit more from you and your experience, Kelly, right? So I'm going to ask this question. What inspired you to start your business? How has your journey shaped your approach to marketing and thought leadership?
Yeah, so inspiration for me was I was pushed off a ledge. So
Tell
I
us, tell
say
us.
that I was working in a company. We were acquired,
Mhm,
and for about 2 years, I kept thinking, I think I'm going to lose my job. I was in marketing.
mhm,
So, when a marketing role, when we were acquired by a company that was 5 times our size, they already had a marketing department. So I
mhm,
just had this feeling that that was going to happen.
mhm,
And so for a couple years, I was dreaming about this business that I wanted to create.
mhm,
And then one day, it happened. I came into a meeting with my boss, and HR came in the room, and they said, your role is no longer needed here. And I was like, yep, I saw that coming, right? Like, so
mhm,
I had kind of this runway of thinking about things. I had a head start on thinking about what was next for me.
mhm,
And I think that was really, really necessary for me because I am not a risk taker. I am not somebody who would have taken that leap myself, but I kind of, like I said, I kind of got pushed off the ledge. And then I said, all right, this this idea was planted in my brain for a reason, and I'm going to start this business.
mhm,
So I started the business, and what I wanted to do was help people with developing their thought leadership platform, because that's what I had done in my career. And that was kind of what my skills and experience had led me to.
mhm,
And so, in doing that, I also had to start putting myself in the spotlight and start developing my own thought leadership platform, because that was going to help grow my business and also help me show my clients and my potential clients that I was doing exactly what I was going to help them do. So,
mhm.
yeah, so that was kind of my path to developing my own thought leadership platform.
And let me ask you, what was a courageous moment that you had to choose to move forward? I know you talked about the videos. Were there any other courageous moments that you found yourself walking into and had to push through to get to where you are now?
Yeah. So when, I mentioned that I was pushed off the ledge, but I really, like I said, I am not a risk taker. So in those first few days, I told my husband, I'm going to apply for jobs every day I'm going to apply for 10 jobs and then I'll focus on my business. And I did
Mhm.
that for one day.
I see.
And after the one day, I said, this is going to kill me. It's so demoralizing, right? Applying for jobs, hoping that somebody takes a chance on you. And so I think that was the most courageous moment was I said, it was literally day one. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I am going all in on this business and I'm going to take this opportunity to start building the thing that I have been dreaming about. Right.
Mhm.
So to me, that was kind of the next step.
Yes.
And then those early days, I saw a lot of people on LinkedIn saying things about how they had been laid off, lost their job, and how, it's been 470 days and they were still without a job. And, all of these things that I just kept telling myself, that's not going to be my story. That is not how this is going to end,
Mhm. Mhm.
or where I'm going to be a year from now. So I really pushed myself to make decisions really quickly, to move really fast,
Mhm.
because I knew that if I wanted to get to the point where had replaced my corporate income,
Yes.
and was building a thriving business, that I had to move quickly. And I think that was kind of the next thing that led to that success.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for sharing that story, sharing your journey. And to every leader that is listening, you have a journey, and your journey matters. Your journey is important, and your journey, possibly like what Kelly's is the next step to the elevation, to the enhancement, to the reset that you are looking towards, or that life is calling you to have. So I want to ask you this question, right? Because I know that there are leaders who are listening, and they're saying, "Okay, thought leadership. All right, I hear what Kelly is saying, but how do I get started on this?" So for somebody who is starting their journey into thought leadership, what's the first few steps that you would recommend that they take?
Yeah, love this question. So, first, I think is getting over that fear, that imposter syndrome, the fear of visibility, right? And start showing up.
Mm,
So, that for me, that was through video content, through LinkedIn content.
mhm.
And I guess even before that first step is I think you have to identify what I call your unique authority X factor. So
Okay.
what is the thing that makes you different? For me, it was my 20-year career, my experience in publishing, in marketing, in thought leadership development. That's what made me stand out in my professional network. And once I understood that, I knew how I could best help people in the workplace or in their environment.
Yes.
So identify what makes you unique and then start showing up in a way that you are sharing that expertise with the world, helping people see how you are the person who can help them.
Mhm.
Or even, you might be developing a personal brand because maybe that's going to lead to a new job someday. But if you're staying hidden, no one's going to know that you exist, right? So it's a matter of showing up and starting to develop content. The
Yes.
next couple of things that I suggest to people are podcast interviews and speaking. So if you're really serious about leaning into your thought leadership platform, you
Mhm.
need to get on stages and start speaking in front of people.
Mm. This is good, Kelly. This is good wisdom. This is good. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking, I think this will naturally come as our leaders literally take the step one and step two that you were sharing just now. I also want to add a step that I have found really helpful for myself. Get clear on your core message.
Yes.
Thought leadership starts with what you believe, not what you post. Woo! Have mercy. I know for me, as I have been on this journey, I've had to get clear on my core message. Otherwise, at one point, I found myself just talking about random stuff, and my
Yeah.
coach is like, "Who wants to hear you talk about random stuff? Do you know how many people are on LinkedIn talking about get clear? What's that core message that people and you said this a couple of times in terms of consistency? What's that core message that people can count on? Kelly's going to talk about something in this field, and this is the pain point. I want to hear her so I can know how to not. Well, let me see what Kelly's going to talk about today. Some random thing, right? I mean, there's people out there for that, but get clear on your core message, right? And then you touched on something else. Share your perspective, not perfection. And I love that because people don't follow polished voices. They follow honest ones. They want
Mhm.
that person that they can relate to. Oh, Kelly, man, she's just like me. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not perfect. She's not perfect, but she's being courageous. I want to be courageous by her, or she inspires me because I see her show up in spite of, right? And then that goes to what you said, show up consistently, even when you feel unready. I don't know who's
Yes.
ever totally ready, right?
Yes.
But thought leadership is built through reputation, not daily, but consistently. Mm.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I do think, that first step of identifying what makes you unique. And
Mhm.
then the next thing is, like you said, what is that core message? So I like to have, 3 to 5 kind of pillar topics these are the things that I'm going to show up and talk about regularly. And for me, that might be, or that is, imposter syndrome, speaking, writing a book. These are all the things I'm talking about thought leadership in a way where it's people can take something away from that and learn from that and then apply to their own journey.
Yes, I love that. So in some ways, if I hear you correctly, thought leadership is built on repetition.
Yeah, absolutely. Repetition. One of the things that somebody said to me is like, I feel like a broken record. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying the same thing over and over again, or promoting myself all the time.
Mhm.
Sorry to tell you that's what it is, right? So,
Yeah.
for you, you're talking about leadership, and you got to keep showing up talking about leadership because that's what people want to learn from you.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And you're making me think tonight. So this is great. So Kelly, as we turn the corner on this conversation, right? We mentioned earlier that you have your own podcast. Please tell us, how does your podcast, beyond the bestseller, how does your podcast help professionals to take their next steps in thought leadership?
Yeah. So my podcast is I feature female authors of nonfiction books. So typically professional books, personal development type books.
Mhm.
And I purposely started that. I wanted to really elevate women in the workplace because I have a heart for women who are professionals. It was for me in my generation, it was hard when I had started having kids. It was hard to continue working and balancing life, and I know that a lot of women choose one or the other. And so for me, I really want to support women who choose to work and have that professional presence. So that's why I wanted to focus my podcast on that. And so all of the women that I have on have a book that they have written to help other women or to help professionals in the workplace. We talk about all kinds of different topics, but all related to how you can grow and become a better version of yourself.
I absolutely love that. Fantastic. So, the next question is a natural question from this, right? So, I know that there are leaders who are listening and watching that are like, okay, this has been an impactful conversation that has increased my curiosity to thought leadership, and I want to know more. How can our listeners and our viewers engage with you to tap into your resources and to learn more?
Yeah. So on my website, 2milehighmarketing.com, I have a thought leader scorecard. So right when you come to the website, right at the top, it's a quick quiz. It takes 3 minutes or so. It asks a series of questions and it gives you kind of a score. It tells you where you fall as a thought leader. And then it tells you some of the things that you can work on if you want to develop your thought leadership platform. So for anyone who is thinking about developing a personal brand, or even if you think you're an expert and you're like, I got this,
Mhm.
it's still helpful in thinking through maybe some of the things that you don't got that you need to work on, or that you could work on if you want to. So that's a
Mhm.
great resource. And then if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I often talk about these topics. Like I said, thought leadership, personal branding, and I'm sure you can put my link to my LinkedIn in the show notes because I don't have an easy name to spell, but it's Kelly Schuknecht on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Kelly, what an amazing conversation. This really has been impactful. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is value added to our community. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Wow. What a powerful conversation with Kelly. She reminded us that your brand is not something you create, it's something you cultivate every single day. Every choice, every message, every moment becomes a part of the story people tell about you. And now I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and tell me, send me a DM in the chat. Go ahead and write a comment. Answer this question. What's one area of your personal or professional brand that you want to elevate this month? Please definitely share your reflections so that we can grow. And as you send them in, I will be sure to share what you send in on a future episode. If this episode sparks something in you, make sure to subscribe to Transformation Station so that you don't miss a Monday or a Wednesday podcast episode. All right, now, until next time, keep on leading with clarity, keep showing up with purpose, and keep transforming your world one authentic moment at a time.